Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum. It's me Shahzaib Sangi from BSCS 2K17 batch, and today I am here to present my presentation of the subject Visual Studio. That is the subject of Sir Farhan Ali Surayo. And because of COVID, as you know, because of COVID-19, we were assigned to make videos we make presentation videos instead of written exams. So that's why I have made my presentation on the subject of Visual Studio. So let's start with that. So this is my introduction. First slide of my introduction: name Shahzaib Sangi, roll number is 2K17, LCS 41, and the subject is Visual Studio, and it is submitted to Sir Farhan Ali Surayo, which I forget to write in my presentation, so sorry for that, sir. And this is the course outline which is I am going to define in my presentation. So first one is introduction to Visual Studio, and second one is clients and servers, and the third one is what is thread, and fourth one is what is DLL file. So let's start with the first one, introduction to Visual Studio. So what is Visual Studio? This is the introduction of Visual Studio. Visual Studio is an integrated development environment IDE developed by Microsoft to develop GUI, graphical user interface, console, web application, web apps, mobile apps, cloud and web services, etc. With the help of this IDE, you can create managed code as well as native code. It uses the various platforms of Microsoft software development software like Windows Store, Microsoft Silverlight, and Windows API, etc. It is not a language specific IDE, as you can use this to write code in C Sharp, C++, VB, Visual Basic, Python, JavaScript, and many more languages. So it provides support for 36 different programming languages. It is available for Windows as well as for macOS. So this is the evolution of Visual Studio. So what is evolution of Visual Studio? The first version of Visual Studio was released in 1997, named as Visual Studio 97, having version number 5.0. The latest version of Visual Studio is 15.0, means 10% increased, which was released on March 7, 2017. It is also termed as Visual Studio 2017. The supported the supported net the supported .NET framework versions in latest Visual Studio is 3.5 to 4.7. Java was supported in old versions of Visual Studio, but in the latest version doesn't provide any support for Java language. So this was the Visual Studio evolution of Visual Studio. And the second topic is clients and servers. So a network architecture in which each computer or process on the network is either a client or a server. What is client and server? A network architecture in which each computer or process on the network is either a client or a server. So what is clients? Applications that run on computers rely on servers for files, devices, and processing power. Example: email client, an application that enables you to send and receive email. So this is servers, computers or processes that manage network resources, disk drives, file servers, printers, print servers, network traffic, network servers. Example, database server, a computer system that processes database queries. That was servers. So the third topic is what is thread. What is thread in Visual Studio? In computer science, a thread is the smallest unit of processing that can be scheduled by an operating system. So it generally results from a fork of a computer program. The implementation of threads and processes differs from one operating system to another. But in most cases, a thread is contained inside a process. So multiple threads can exist within the same process and share resources such as memory, while different processes do not share these resources. So consider the example of a word processing application. For example, MS Word. MS Word is a process and spell checker within it is a thread. And the memory they share is Word document. So that was the thread. So threads in C sharp. What are the threads in C sharp? A thread is an independent stream of instructions in a program. All your C sharp programs up to this point have one entry point. The main method execution starts with the first statement in the main function, in the main method, and continues until that method returns. So this program structure is all very well for programs in which there is one identifiable sequence of tasks with the thread clause. You can create and control threads. You can also create and control threads. So the types of threads, there are basic two types of threads, a foreground thread and background thread. So I will define one by one these two. So the first one is foreground thread. So what is foreground thread? The process of the application keeps running as long as at least one foreground thread is running. So even if main method ends, the process of the application remains active until all foreground threads finish their work. So a thread you create with the thread class by default is a foreground thread. So what is foreground thread? A thread you create with thread class by default is a foreground thread. That was the foreground thread. So what is background thread? This is the second type of threads, background thread. So what is the background thread? When you create a thread with the thread clause, you can define whether it should be a foreground or background thread by setting the property is background. So background threads are very useful for background tasks. For example, when you close the Word application, it doesn't make sense for the spell checker to keep its process running. But the spell checker thread can be killed when the application is closed. Background thread. However, the thread organizing the Outlook message store should remain active until it is finished, or even if Outlook is closed. Foreground thread. So these are the thread types of threads. And next topic is what is DLL file. DLL stands for Dynamic Link Library. So what is DLL file? A dynamic link library DLL is a collection of small programs which can be called upon when needed by the executable program exe that is running. The DLL lets the executable communicate with a specific device such as printer or may contain source code to do particular functions. This was the DLL file. So example of DLL file is, an example would be, if the program exe needs to get the free space of your hard drive, it can call the DLL file that contains the function with parameters and a call function. So the DLL will then tell the executable the free space. So this allows the executable to be smaller in size and not have to write the function that already exists. So this allows any program the information about the free space without having to write all the source code, and it saves space on your hard drive as well. So when a DLL is used in this fashion are also known as shared files. So that was the example of DLL file. So thank you very much. That this is the end of my presentation.